Hello, welcome to another video, and today I'm just going to quickly run through my Hellzerker Amara build for post DLC 6 and basically just an update video for the first time in over 6 months. It's been a while since I've done it. The main reason I've been putting it off is because nothing's really changed. I've been using this build since September 2019. It hasn't really changed, but lots of people have been asking for an update, so here it is. This Amara, it's extremely versatile, quite easy to build for, extremely easy to play, and it's basically just maximizing guns on Amara rather than, say, your face punches or your Unleash the Dragon stingers, which is my personal favorite playstyle for Amara, and really like the weapon versatility. And as you can see from some of the background footage, the damage output that you can do is really just matching the other characters, and it's a good build. So, let's jump into it. So, we'll go with the spec. Again, nothing's really changed here. I'll start with Green Tree. Personal space, 54% V2 damage there. Very, very nice. It's gun only, which is a shame, but it's very good. And then I do have 2 points. In fact, I'm going to unequip my class mod. It's something I keep meaning to remember to do. Yeah, and 2 points in clarity to reach Blight Tiger. Now, if you do not have Designer's Cut, do not worry. This build's quite base game friendly if you don't have DLCs, and I'll run over, alternatives. But Heavy Rain here, I mainly use it for the projectile speed, not for the splash damage, and I'll explain why. Splash damage is good though. So yeah, if you do not have the 4th skill trees, do not worry, these 5 skill points are not major at all. We can put these elsewhere, but if you do have it, I really like Heavy Rain here. Now, Blue Tree, fast hands, it's a no-brainer, swap speed, mode swap speed, great for the Monarch, really is a good thing. Violent Tapestry doesn't really do much. You got 1 point. This helps us sustain our rush decks. And then Do Harm, you can either go 1 and 4. Typically in the past, I've always gone 1, and that is to maintain a balance between the enemy that you're shooting in a Ties That Bind chain and the other enemies. And that allows your Indiscriminate to hit the side enemies and the ties damage to go back into the main enemy, which kills everyone at about the same rate, which is optimal for clear speeds. Well, since the Director's Cut, that's been tossed out the window because the Revolter exists, and that just ramps your ties damage up so much. If you do not have DLC 6, you can run 1 in Do Harm, which saves way more points for things like Alacrity. Alacrity is great, love it. If you do have DLC 6 though, you can run higher Do Harm. That's useful for, say, like Anathema or Tower Stage Wotan, where you just Phase Grasp a Guardian or a Oversphere, shoot that with any gun, and it phases the raid boss. So it's pretty useful there. Hit or miss, do what you want there, but 1, 3, 1 to get down to phase 2. Tier 2, sorry. If you got any spare points from Do Harm, you can drop into Alacrity. Transcend, Amara's biggest damage skill in the game. Bonus accuracy, which is great, and then there's critical hit damage, stacks twice. If you double pop a phase cast, which is what I do for bosses, 54% crit damage, Amara's damage is really high if you're hitting crits. If you're not hitting crits, it drops off. Sponge Boss and Hemovorous, they're quite rough, but everything else, there's a crit spot available. Transcend is amazing. Restless, the worst cooldown rate skill in the entire game, however it's the only thing Amara has, so we kind of have to take it. Ascendant, doesn't do much. Amara's augments suck, and even when we do use Source of Mind during Guardian Takedown Crystals, you don't need that extra thing, as a point saved. From Rest, fire rate and charge speed, no brainer. Laid Bare, it's a skill debuff, it's a debuff, yay, you take that. And Wrath is some extra gun damage, Amara needs that. Remnant, occasionally one-shots the world, you only need 1 point. Modus points don't really do much, since the majority of its damage is overkill damage. Awakening, does not boost the Hellzerker. Big shame. It boosts the stone, doesn't boost the Hellzerker, so we skipped that one. And then that brings us Avatar, plus 10 rush stacks, which equates to 25% gun damage, 25% cooldown rate, and the extra pop of our action skill, which enables that double stacking of Transcend. So, Avatar good. And finally, on to Red Tree. Steady Hands, it's just bonus damage application, accuracy and handling, really tightens the spread on the light shows, the Monarchs, the Hellwalkers. Great skill. Anima actively hurts you, avoid the skill. If you get a Hellzerker with points in it, don't worry, it's not the end of the world. It's not like a super negative skill for this kind of setup. But Anima, a lot of dots that you get hit by from like barrels or a bit of straight splash or whatever will get boosted by Anima and you'll just die instantly. So try and avoid it when you can. Infusion. So this one, you can go 1 or 2 points in. You can put 1 in Anima, 1 in Infusion just to get down to the next tier. I like high infusion because a lot of high tier weapons, such as the free radical, the plasma coil, the crit, the Hellzerker, reflux, they're all element locked. Infusion allows you to let them do elements that they otherwise normally wouldn't do. For example, a crit is locked to shock. Shock isn't super useful as a primary element, especially against like big bosses with big open crit spots where you'd use a crit. However, being able to convert 40% of that damage into fire damage makes the crit just the best boss killer in the game for Amara. Except against Hemovorus. So, yeah, I really like Infusion. It just means that as a player, you need to make sure your action skill element is correctly selected. So for C of E, I typically, or Mallow and Takedown, I typically do Corrosive. If I'm fighting beasts or bosses, I'll just do Fire or whatever it's weak to. And for Guardian Takedown, Guardian sections, I do Shock. To do Shock, you just unequip. Like that. So manage loadout. Unequip. I know not everyone knows how to enable shock on the action skill element there. So yeah, Infusion requires that extra bit of thought, but is well worth it in the end. Now, there used to be some weird, like, misinterpretation of how Infusion worked in the past. It does, like, the whole idea of it lowering your dot damage is irrelevant. That's not necessarily true, and it's completely irrelevant in the high mayhems of this game. What it does do, however, it converts your damage into a bonus element. A lot of Amara's damage is in bonus elements, and bonus elements get all the same bonuses that the normal bullet does, except for splash. Which means, like, yeah, which is why I said that the splash damage on Heavy Rain is not super important, because it's not affecting 40% of our gun's damage, and it's not affecting any of our bonus elements. Revolta's bonus element, Forceful Expression, Infusion, 50% ASEs. None of those get splash. So, splash bonuses on Amara, it's great, but also, like, you're not getting as much out of it as you'd hope. Tempest, it's 30% flat elemental damage with an extra 10% shock, not the listed 20. Good skill. Illuminated Fist is pretty good. Ties That Bind is really good at stacking up Groundbreaker. Whenever you deliver Groundbreaker, Illuminated Fist gives you a full heal. I personally don't have it selected right now because of Corrosive Mallow and Heavies in Mallow and Takedown. They were an enemy type that I really wanted to deliver Groundbreaker against, but because I use Corrosive Action skill element for Mallow and Takedown, it doesn't actually hit because they're immune to it, so I can't deliver the Groundbreaker, so I've unspec'd it for now, but you can drop a point in there. Take it from Wildfire. Wildfire is going to be our dump skill here because, as I said, Anima situationally hurts you. Wildfire doesn't do much, and if you're not going high infusion, just dump him into Wildfire. It helps spread dots, which is good for consecutive hits. Better for consecutive hits than Anima is, if you're thinking that. But it's a minor thing in gameplay. Dread, no-brainer, free reloads. It does take ammo from the reserves, which is a shame, but it skips the reloads and it's a bit of extra gun damage. Deep Well, 1.20% mag, again, no-brainer. Indiscriminate, one of Amara's best skills. It's just free ricochets. It turns single target damage guns into multi-target damage guns. It gets mayhem scaling, it double dips bonuses. It's ludicrously powerful. It shouldn't get the mayhem scaling, but it does anyway. Always take this. Catharsis. It's rubbish. The radius is just too low, and the forced 8-second cooldown, the chances of you killing an enemy, having it be off of cooldown, having another enemy within the radius, the small radius of the first enemy, but not being killed by whole points or indiscriminate, but having the damage of Catharsis be enough to make a difference in the time to kill versus that enemy, it's just never going to happen. It's stars align moment, and if you kill, say, an anointed enemy, and you go and break that crystal and Catharsis procs, which it does, you explode and die. It's really not worth it. Just throw the point into Wildfire to get down the tree. It's not a good skill, unfortunately. I did try and run it. People were talking about it, but it's not good. 1 out of 5 sustainment. If you're lower level and leveling, you can go a few more, but once you reach endgame, you only need the 1. The rest 4 go into Conflux. It's not a super impactful skill, but a couple of extra dots, maybe a couple of extra stacks for Harmageddon, which is a Guardian rank skill debuff. It can help. And then Forceful Expression. It's an 18% bonus element. It's alright. It applies to things like Indiscriminate and stuff, which makes it really nice. Yeah, it's noticeable damage. I like Forceful Expression a lot, despite it, not holding a candle to some of Moses' bonus elements. And that's the skill tree spec. In terms of action skills for mobbing, Ties That Bind wins the day, but, you know, Phase Slam or Phase Cast, I use the base versions for cooldown, right? They work too. And then for bosses, double casting Phase Cast is going to be the fastest kill. Hemovorus specifically, though, because there's Hemovorus and Vermivorus, I run Ties That Bind. Also, they don't really have an available crit spot, which is a big shame. It's the weakest point is Hemovorus. No available crit spot, or readily available one, rather. Big shame. So I run Ties for that fight, but otherwise for bosses, I typically do the double cast. As for gear, we'll run through our equipment first. Hellzerker wins here. It's 75% gun damage, 75% cooldown rate with basically 100% uptime. Death's Blessing has a bit more damage, but nowhere near the uptime. Its uptime is crap. I don't recommend Death's Blessing at all. Driver has even worse cooldown, with a bit more good damage. Again, for this setup, not worth it at all. This purple technically wins if you're just doing a boss melt like on Gravy. It's not much though, and that's because of the transcend points, but yeah, Amara class mods don't really do much, but Hellzerker's our best, most consistent one. For skills, doesn't matter, don't worry about the skills at all, just go for passives. Personally, I go for cooldown rate when I can, and then, you know, just some others for boss melts and stuff. But weapon type damage, weapon damage, weapon crit damage, cooldown rate, manufacture crit, even splash, even with the aforementioned things with bonus elements, they all work. Just go for some solid ones there. For artifacts, if you've got DLC 2, Pearl of Knowledge wins. If you got Director's Cut, well-rolled company bands can do well as well. If you do not have DLCs, literally any artifact. Victory Rush doesn't work currently. Work properly at least. It does sometimes, but it's weird. But like a Snowdrift, Last Stand, whatever, with some like cooldown rate, mag size, weapon type, elemental damage. I wish I had shock damage on this instead of AoE, but yeah, just passives like that on a Victory Rush will do you great. So I'd run those two. Grenade, it's piss. I run a whole set with different action skill elements and just change depending on what your enemies are. So like bonus shock, corrosive fire, thrown, that kind of thing. Revolter! This thing's really dumb. It's 200% shock bonus element that scales with your action skills, i.e. it's dumb with ties, and 50% fire rate is a separate fire rate booster. It's nuts. Run that with the ASS Anoint. Crazy, crazy OP shield. The only times I don't use it is for like shock immune enemies. I've got a Radiation Old God. I've never actually equipped it. Doesn't matter, but yeah. It's an old God as well. But yeah, if you don't have the DLC, run Old Gods. If you don't have that DLC either, I guess just run Plus Ultras or All-Ins or Transformers. Just any decent shield with the bonus 50% elements, and just run those depending on the enemy's weakness. I'm talking a while. Anyway, last but not least, guns. One thing that's wonderful about this build is you can kind of go with whatever. This, I'd say, is like a good optimal loadout. The Free Radical is dumb. It's really strong from the Director's Cut. It's stronger than the Plasma Coil, by far. This thing is crazy powerful. It can roll, if you can get into the 60s, that's great, high 50s. It rolls up to 68. And times 1 over times 2, I've been playing around with times 2. The damage swing is way too high. You lose way too much damage per pellet on the times 2. I've been testing it out, times 1 wins. Definitely go for a nice high damage times 1. High 50s, low 60s. If you can get a 68, that's the winner. For anoints on your guns, by the way, you go for consecutive hits with 250 phase casts for bosses. My crit here is 250 phase cast. And speaking of crit, base game gun, stupid strong for bosses. This will kill Gravewood in under a second, as you saw earlier. Really, really, really dumb. Yeah, they overbuffed this like crazy. Hellwalker, wonderful. The original name of the build. I have 3 Hellwalkers on me. 1 for each action skill, depending on my mood. TK's Wave got a buff that's pretty good too. Light shows are fantastic. Free radicals, we talked about that. Chaos's a bit of fun. I don't use that for power here. Flipper's pretty good. Coil, even though it's outclassed by free radical, is wonderful. Ember's Purge is a little bit bugged. It's that pool. There's a lot of damage. It's a meme gun. It can do a lot of damage. I don't use it too much though. Monarch, base game weapon, very, very high damage. Just good for bossing and mobbing in general, if you can cope with the bipod. Fast hands make putting away the bipod and bringing it out again really smooth and quick. So that's good. Clairvoyance and Becker are both wonderful. Love those guns. Convergence is pretty fun. It's a little anti-synergistic with Amara, but it's fine. It's a strong enough gun. No pew pew. Cartels comes out very soon. Level 65 no pew pew. It's going to dominate this game. And this build is wonderful with it. I love this gun. It's my favorite gun in the game. This thing hasn't left my inventory. I cannot wait for a level 65 no pew pew. It's going to be great. Replay, multi-tap's pretty fun. They were buffed. Yeah, basically just run your favorite guns. I've even got a sighted shotgun in here. Reflex is alright. I tried Guardian Angel stuff, whatever. It's not really a face puncher build. This was for groundbreaker testing. And then that runs into the rest of our gear. So yeah, that's all of that. I've been talking for 16 minutes already. Wow, okay. Well, I hope all of that information you were able to soak it in. I was talking quick because I knew I tried going into detail, so I talk a lot. So that's the gameplay. For bosses, you drop in, you do 2 action skill procs, 1 into the ground so it ends quicker, and then 1 into the boss for Laid Bear, throwing its piss in there too for the debuff. That's how you get the maximum boss melt in there. I get asked a lot, how do you do boss damage in Amara? That is how. And then for mobbing, just throw some face casts around, throw some ties that binds around, shoot the enemies in the face. So a lot of our damage comes from crit damage. It's all about that that crit damage. If an enemy doesn't have an accessible crit spot, I use the free radical. Because if the bonus projectiles, it doesn't really rely on crits. So free radical is good for that. Hemovorus, I run free radical. It's about a 4-minute kill for me. You might be, with slightly suboptimal gear, you might be looking at like a 5 or a 6-minute kill, which is not the greatest in the world, but it is her weakest matchup. Other bosses where she can hit crits, it's just fine. Sandhawk is another good gun too. Sandhawk, base game, really, really strong. So yeah, if you got any further questions, be sure to ask in the comments. When going through a build, there's so much to talk about with how to play it, all the gear setups and all of that. It's hard to fit it all into a video. So if you got any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. With that, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the build. There will be a download in the in my Discord in the description below. So yeah, I forgot to mention that earlier. So check that out. Join the Discord, wonderful community, and I'll see you there. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.